Let's move on to the next topic. This is the BCG matrix. This is the simple 2 by 2 matrix. On one side, that's the market growth. So there is a high market growth, and then there's low market growth. And there's another side that is relative market share, whether it's high or lower. So by combining those two axes, we can have 4 different boxes. If you see the right upper side, that's number 1. That means the market is growing fast and the company's position in that market is strong because their relative market share is high. Relative market share means your market share compared to the competitor's market share. So if your market share is higher than the competitors, and we can say it's high. And if your market share is lower than your competitor, we can say your relative market share is low. So for example, there's 2 companies in the market. You are the bigger player and your market share is 75% of the entire market. And your competitor is taking the other 25% market share in the market. And in that case, your absolute market share number is 75%, right? But your relative market share is 75% divided by 25% means number 3. 3 is higher than number 1. That means your relative market share is high. But in case your market share is only 25% and your competitor's market share is 75%, your relative market share is 25% divided by 75% equals only 1/3 or 0.33%. So your relative market share is lower than 1, indicating that your relative market share is low. So relative market share also implies your position in that market. If your market share is higher than your competitor and your relative market share is higher than 1, we can say that your position in the market is strong. But your relative market share is low, and we can say your position in that market is weak. So left, right hand, and then upper boxes, which is number 1 area where the market is growing fast and our position in this market is strong, and we may say it's a star because the market is growing and your position is strong, so you can take advantages of all the market growth for yourself first. But if you look at the right hand side, but the bottom side is number 2, right? The market is not growing so fast, but our position in this market is still strong. We may call this as cash cow. That means generating a lot of cash, but there is no expectation of growing a lot in the near future. You simply cashing out from a cow which generates a lot of milk every day, right? If you see the left-hand side on the top line of your left-hand side is number 3 area, that is question mark. Why do we call this area as question mark? Because the market is growing fast, but our position in this market is weak. So the market is growing, market growth is high, but our position in this market is so weak. So we are not quite sure whether we have to invest more or not in these areas, because the market is growing, but there's another big player in this area. If we take the substantial portion of market share, and if we become the market leader in this market, and then the market can become star from question mark. But in case our position in this market is still weak, and in case the market is not growing fast anymore, that becomes the area of the dog, number 4. So the number 4 is your left and bottom box. That means the market is not growing fast and your position in this market is weak. So if you do not expect the market will grow faster, and if you do not expect that your position in this market can become strong in the near future, you have to seriously consider pulling out of this market, because it's a dog market. So I explained each of those 4 boxes is a 2x2 matrix, right? This is called BCG matrix. Okay, now you may understand what it means in each of the 4 boxes. One X is market growth, and the other X is relative market share. And based on whether its variable is high or not, we can divide it into 4 different boxes. Okay, why do we use the BCG matrix? When do we use the BCG matrix? BCG matrix can be used to consider which business to focus while allocating the existing resources properly from a strategic standpoint. What does that mean? Okay, this matrix is used to consider which business to focus. That means what is the best option to pursue. So BCG matrix is related to building business strategy. And if you also look at the sentence of allocating the existing resources properly, that's exactly why we build a business strategy. The reason we build a business strategy is to allocate the limited and existing resources properly, right? So specifically, BCG matrix can be used in which industry do we focus more or not, okay? and in which industry do we invest our resources more or not. So it's related to rebalancing the existing business portfolios. So if your business portfolio have 4 investment sectors, 4 business sectors to invest, you can assess whether to put your resources more or not based on the simple analysis of the BCG matrix. So it's better for you to put more money in the star areas, right? Because the market is growing and your market share is quite high. So in order for you to understand which market you want to focus more, BCG matrix is quite useful. It also illustrates 4 different options to invest. Okay. Okay. From a strategic point of view, which business do you think you put more resources on? Out of 4 business sectors, is it a star or a cash cow, question mark, or a dog? The star sector is that market growth is fast, market grows fast, and our company's position is strong, right? So we may think that we have to inject more resources continuously. Why? To keep the market leadership of ours. Once we maintain our market leadership, if the market grows, we are the first player to enjoy the faster growth of the market. But if we lose our market leadership, even though the market is growing fast, we may lose our benefit of market leaderships. So in order to keep the market leader position of ours, we have to put more resources in the near future. But what about the cash cow section? We can generate a lot of monies, right? Because our market share is relatively high in this market. But in the near future, market is not expected to grow so fast. But in this area, be cautious to put additional resources. But just to try to maintain the current market leaderships. So compared to the star business sector, you don't have to put a lot of money injected in the cash cow business sector, right? Because market is not growing as fast as before. So even though you put a lot of monies, you cannot get a big reward from the market growth. You can simply try to maintain your current market leaderships. So putting additional resources are required to maintain the current market leadership, but be cautious to put a lot of more monies in this cash cow business sector. What about question mark? It is called question mark because it can be a star in the future. But at the same time, there's a risk of falling down to the dog. So who knows whether it can be the star or it can be a dog. So that's why you have to inject significant amount of the resources to move your position from market follower to market leader. Okay? In question mark business sector, market is growing so fast. So the only thing you have to consider is whether you can catch up with your competitor, and then whether you can become a market leader or not. So you have to put a lot of money to gain the market leadership position in this market. So compared to star or cash cow, you have to put more capitals or more money in the question mark business sectors. And what about the final business sector of the dog area? You may consider the withdrawal of this business if the market is not growing fast in the near future, or your position is still quite weak. You may say that you have to spend a lot of money to gain the market leadership position. So moving from your position from 4 to the position of 2 in cash cow. Yes, that's right. Yes. But there is a risk that market is not growing as fast in the near future. That's the difference between the question mark business sector and dog business sector. So instead of putting a lot of money in the business sector of the dog, you'd rather put your precious resources in the question mark areas. Okay, so based on the position in the BCG matrix, you have to reallocate your capital injection strategies. So that's the strategic implication for each business sector in terms of putting or injecting the resources.